right, we ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Showtime TV Productions. I'm your host, Omar Rashada. I have some awesome guests tonight with this hot topic. It's the topic that everybody's talking about, Black Lives Matter. I'd like to say Kimberly Stock, Mahkeib Booker, Vanity Constance, and Noel Duckworth. Good evening.
Hey.
Good evening.
And I just thank everybody for wanting to be part of this live discussion, Zoom, Facebook Live edition. What I want to do, I want to start off with Kimberly, then Mahkeib, then Vanity, then Noel. If you could introduce yourselves and just let the people know what is it that you do, but what is your profession or your activities?
Absolutely. Thank you, Omar. Thank you for having me on. My name is Kim Stock, and I am an English language arts and ESL teacher at McCain High School for the Red Clay Consolidated School District.
Okay, Mahkeib.
How you doing? I'm Mahkeib Booker from Black Lives Matter, Wilmington, Delaware, community activist / part-time revolutionist.
Okay, Vanity. Who are you, Vanity? Who are you?
Hey, I'm a love advocate. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a community activist, and yeah.
Okay, and then last but not least, Noel.
Hi, Omar. Thanks for having me, inviting me for this important conversation. I'm a social justice advocate and have done work in public health and trying to be a white mom raising a white boy with values that I want to instill in him around equity and unlearning white supremacy.
Okay, I want to start off with I know at least 3 of the 4 of you have attended the recent at least one protest or another involving the death of Mr. George Floyd. I'm gonna start off with Kimberly, Mahkeib, Vanity, and Noel. Let's start off. Why did you go to the protest, and what was your experience like going to the demonstration? We'll start off with Kimberly.
Yeah, Omar, I went to a protest very early on, one of the first Saturday protests, and it was really peaceful. I just feel like it's really important. I'm not Black, obviously. I am Korean, but I think it's very important for all people, including other people of color, to stand up for Black Lives Matter. And also, I thought it was really important that because I am a Christian, that I believe that it was very important that I do both, and because I'm a teacher, that those things are important. That I think that it needs to be everybody, because the civil rights that Black people have gained and fought for in this country have only benefited Asians in this country as well. So, I stand with you 100%.
Okay, and for those who didn't attend any of the protests, demonstrations, or marches, you can just give me what is your take on the marches and the protests? Do you think they were justified? Okay, let's go to Mahkeib.
Being foods over bombs did the first protest up Rodney Square that Saturday. It turned a little messy, and the message got lost in the purpose, sort of, because it was basically designed to talk about the policies and the laws. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we go after physical things, and we yell and we fuss and then we leave without no strategy. And I wanted to set up the strategy of having the young people, not just young people, but everybody focused on policies, because it's a policy in Wilmington set in place where the police officers could put their knee in the neck like they did George Floyd. So, I was trying to bring that to light, you know what I mean? Also the residency with the police living outside of the city, not really caring, you know what I mean? So to bring that policy back with them living inside the city. So just a couple of thoughts I wanted to put on the table, so everybody can get on the same agenda and we can make that push towards the people who can make that legislation pass.
Okay, Vanity?
My take from everything, I feel as though there's more than one way to solve a puzzle. And so everyone is out there for different reasons and different motives. The reason why I attended the first protest that I was actually out physically, and I was handing out waters and snacks and I had a sign-up sheet and collected so many emails. It was organized by Kobe Owens and Garrison. And it was amazing. Like, it was really great seeing that so many people were in one accord. It was very peaceful. Everything went really well. But I feel like enough is enough. Like, people are fed up and they have enough time because of the COVID-19, where people have the time and energy to they want to be out. Everyone is like inspired, they're invigorated. So I'm excited, you know? But there's different motives why people are actually marching. Like, there's the organizers, there's the marchers, there's different strategies in order to get effective change. So I'm grateful for anybody that's willing to stand up with us and make a difference.
Okay, Noel, your thoughts on the recent marches and protests? I'm not sure if you attended one or not, but
I've been, I have not attended the ones in Wilmington recently, but not because I don't stand in solidarity. I've been to other, I went to the March for Racial Justice in DC a few years ago. I've marched for at the Peace March annually for Martin Luther King Day and other things. But and I marched at the Women's March after Trump was elected because I was so upset about the lack of intersectional lens and the white women coming to DC in droves and not thinking about the same power that could be utilized to lift up the voices of Black men and women who and Indigenous and other people of color who I was hearing from first around how devastating and yet unsurprising these the election results were. So so I support the protests, and I actually support I understand and I empathize with the looting. As someone who's done a lot of work with people who've experienced trauma and violence, I also I know that one way, the path to healing after trauma is having safety. And if we haven't liberated people and we're still actively putting forth systems of oppression and not working to tear them down and dismantle them completely, then we are not creating safety and helping people heal. And so people act a lot of different ways when they're traumatized. We know that. And so we have to think about that same thing. So I really promote that empathy and think about, how I would feel, in dealing with some level of oppression. I mean, I'm a woman. I can understand, men's oppression against women, but other than that, I'm, able-bodied, American-born, English-speaking, cisgender. So I have a lot of privilege, and I have a lot to learn about how oppression subjugates, how I participate in that.
okay. Now we just had someone recently join us in, Edward Harrison. What's going on, Ed? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Okay, what I had everyone do is just if you can introduce yourself, what is it that you do, and then if you can follow up with the question. I don't know if you went to any of the marches, but if you haven't, what are your thoughts on the recent protest marches and demonstrations that have been going on across, actually across the world, because it's not just here in America, but it's there's other places as well. So.
Well, my name is Edward Harrison. For those that don't know me, I own a barbershop and a cafe in Newcastle, Delaware. I do a lot of work in the community with our youth and other services and things like that. So I've been here for about 28 years now. This particular march, I was not physically able to be there myself, but I felt it, and I felt his presence. No way do I think it was a waste of time or, it was fruitless. I don't think that we would be really having this conversation if those marches didn't really take place. And for me, looking back through history at different events, it's like each march was necessary to get to where we are now, because it seems to me that each one of them has maybe had a little bit of a more impact than the prior. Although some things that took place, during this march, but they take place during every march, that I wouldn't do myself, but like the previous lady said prior to me, I understand. I also understand that although this is an opportunity for people like myself who believe in Black Lives Matters and things like that to speak up, it's also an opportunity for us to that other side to throw the little snowballs and the darts and the things that they throw to distract us from the original meaning of this, of the march, the purpose of the march. And I think it's up to us to maintain the understanding of what that purpose is, no matter what they put in front of us. I heard things like we're tearing up our own communities and things like that, which is not completely true, because some of the places, although I do not condone it, and I would have went about, I wouldn't have went about things that way, but some of these places that they say are our own community are simply merely in our community, and they extract. They don't give anything back. So when we look at what's been damaged and things like that, I think we really need to look a little deeper than to just say, oh, they just tore this store up. Because I myself personally have gone to some of those businesses for support in some of my programs and got none, and have never got anything. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason to tear those places up, but in understanding what's really going on, that's the big part of it.
Mm. I had a conversation with my dad. Well, I went to the first march of Rodney Square. It was real good. I saw Mahkeib speak, Pastor D speak, and some of the other local leaders speak on the matter. And I was talking to my dad, and later on that evening, it was some major outbreak in the city of Wilmington, especially the Market Street Mall. Of course, those businesses were kind of, I guess you use the word destroyed, windows broken and things of that nature there. It was a big mess. And my dad said it kind of reminded him back in 1968. He was 18 years old, and that's when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had passed away. He got killed. He got killed. And National Guards were here in the city of Wilmington, from my understanding, for like over a year or so. So this is not the first time that something like this happened. Mahkeib, you're the founders of the Black Lives Movement here in the city of Wilmington. My two-part question for you is, why did you decide to start that movement here in the city of Wilmington, Delaware? And then my second question is, when you look back in history, when you look at the civil rights movements, the Black Panther Party movement, and so on, how would you compare those movements to the movement of the day of the Black Lives Matter?
The reason why I called for that peaceful protest rally, to bring enlightenment and awareness that the same things that happened to George Floyd, it's also happening here in Wilmington, Delaware.
Right.
And to join in with the movement, so to speak, because I believe Wilmington, Delaware is I'm gonna say it, weak, watered down, and it's like a one-horse wagon, and they will be silent because of the political structure that's set up, to oppress us, and we need to be free from that. So whenever I see an outside opportunity to shed light to home, I will, because about Jeremy McDowell, who was executed in the police department. Just like Brother Floyd, it was in the knee, it was bullets. And so when you look at the Black Panthers and the movement back in the day, it was more unity. So here in the city of Wilmington, I've always preached unity amongst the brethren. And that's my main goal, is to unify. When I called that rally up town, it was to start the strategizing, to get from behind the closed door meetings and to put everything on the table. Because back in the day, brothers didn't have to worry about the behind the closed doors means, because when they was behind closed doors, they was uniting to fight a common cause. Black Panthers was not only singing black power, but they were saying all power to the people. So when I was doing it up Rodney Square, I was trying to give the power to the people and give them a platform to speak on these things. Just like when I called the press conference with Channel 6, which a lot of brothers didn't show up because we're not unified in the city of Wilmington because of the political structures that divide us with a couple cronies. So when you look at 1960s, the movement of the Black Panthers and the protest that was happening here in Wilmington, Delaware, which my pop was a part of, brothers had more unity. So we're lacking the unity in our community, and that's why people are coming in and they're doing anything to us. We got stores all in our communities. We got politicians paying off people, and they're taking layoffs, payoffs, and stay-offs because the lack of unity and trust amongst the brethren. We must get that back. I had to lay that on the table.
All right, now you mentioned Jeremy McDowell, Bam Bam. You led a demonstration. You and his family led a demonstration last week, and started off at Rodney Square. Then you marched City County building, and I believe the police station, if I'm staying corrected. How did that event go? And just for those who don't understand what the story is about, just briefly talk about, just give us a synopsis of what happened, and talk about the demonstration that you guys had last week.
A little bit.
Okay. The Jeremy McDowell demonstration last week. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The demonstration that you did last week with Jeremy McDowell, Bam Bam. You want to talk about that a little bit? How that went?
Up, but okay. To me, like, whenever you put boots on the ground, that's the foundation of any movement. People say, "Oh, you don't got to protest no more." Jay-Z said, "We're past the deal and we're past that." Well, that I was almost cuss us. Oh, please, forgive me. But that's a damn lie, man, because we're not past that yet. As you can still see, we're still getting knees in our neck. We're still getting disrespected. We're still getting choked out. We still can't breathe. So that protest with Jeremy McDowell and their family was very successful to me because even the mayor was up the street. He didn't come down the street, but he had to hear our voice. Anytime you make a move like that, like I said, when you look at the ant is very small, but it carries back the harvest to the food to the nest back for the rest of the winter. So the little ant is really even important. All facets of the movement is very important. And I believe that protesting and marching is the key intricate part to the table, because as you see them brothers uptown, they tore uptown down, and now they got me in the mayor's office speaking with Hanifa and the mayor because of those young brothers marching and protesting and ripping stuff up that they don't own anyway. So let's get that straight. Not one brick do they own, not even the house they live in, because they don't even own the houses. So would you say they tearing up their stuff? No, that's not their stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I applaud those young brothers and sisters. I do not condemn those brothers and sisters. I don't condone those brothers and sisters. But at the same time, there was the legs that carried me to the table. And I appreciate them brothers and sisters.
When we look at the Black Lives Matter movement and other movements, one of the things that I saw a particular female bring up is that, Trayvon Martin, Rodney King, and Mr. George Floyd, they had demonstrations across the United States of America. But when it came to Breonna Taylor, a female, she did not receive that same support as her male counterparts. So, Vanity, as a woman, I want to ask you, Noel and Kimberly, as a woman, do you think that women get the same type of appreciation, the same type of support as men do when it comes to social issues in our communities? Let's start off with Vanity.
Hey, no, not at all. Not at all. And it seems like the people with I know for facts, people with deeper skin tones, like if a woman has deeper skin tone, she's treated completely different. And this is why I'm even more of an advocate for my brothers and sisters, because when I'm around my friends and everything, and, I'm the lightest one. I've been in situations where it's not safe. It's not okay. And I have seen discrimination like hands on many, many, many times. And I'm very vocal about speaking up every single time. You have to be vocal every single time. The minute you let anybody disrespect you, they're going to keep doing it. And so, like, I just think that it really comes around, like, it really comes down to standing your ground, no matter who's around, no matter if cameras are showing, no matter what. I could be at Wawa 3 a.m., same energy. It doesn't matter. It's like, that's why I'm constantly like advocating for just for brothers, because I've seen it hands on, and it's not fair. It's not right. It doesn't feel good. My gut doesn't feel good. So, no, I've seen it hands on, and it's really bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, and I hate. I saw one when CNN was showing something. They showed one incident where a female protester was protesting. I guess she had a little disagreement with a police officer. He pushed her to the ground, and I was like, man, you gonna do that to a female? I mean, that just hurt just to see that. Noel,
It
and Noel, I
does.
know you have a history of working with women of the domestic violence. That's when you and I first met when I did the shows on domestic violence, and you've been an advocate for females for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we're talking when we're talking about, white supremacy and power and oppression. We have to be really intersectional in our lens and understand how our power to oppress others and our and our identities intersect. And so, we have to really think about how the boots are on the necks of and the knees are on the necks of so many people that have multiple, identities. Our trans gender community, women, poor people, of course, black folks who are dealing with police brutality and many other forms of oppression. So I know when I worked in domestic violence, we talked about the high rates of, transgender women getting killed and indigenous women being at the highest risk for being killed in domestic violence cases, and that goes back to colonialism. So all of this unfortunately makes sense, and these systems of oppression are working exactly as designed, and that's why we don't need to just trying to use the small power that I have in my privileged spaces to advocate for not just small actions where we're just making changes, on snipping around the edges, but really working to dismantle. And strongly in, Audre Lorde, that the quote around, the master's tools, can't be used against the master's house. So we can't keep using Roger's rules of meetings and having, strategic plans and all these other things to dismantle these systems of oppression. White folks need to take action. We need to listen to Black and Brown community members and those most marginalized, center our efforts around them, take up less space. And I'm sorry, I'm going to wrap up my points. I don't want to take space on this call, but really learn these tools and be willing to give leadership and power and redistribute resources to others. It's going to help us all live, a more equitable and life, and love is so much more powerful than hate. And so yes.
Okay, Kimberly, what was your take?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with both Noel and Vanity too. I read today that, for example, that if everybody remembers Brock Turner, the white swimmer from Stanford, who was convicted of raping a girl, that we have been in quarantine longer than he was in jail for raping a girl. As well, I read something just the other day that in 36 states, it is still legal for police to have sex with the people that they apprehend. I don't know how that can possibly be legal in more states than not, but definitely as a woman, as an Asian woman, I just find it reprehensible. And also I just try to use, like what Noel said, I just try to use my platform as a teacher. I'm also one of the diversity champions for the Red Clay School District, and that we are working very hard this summer. We have been working on trying to make our school, our curriculum more culturally responsive. And we're also working on official policy for LGBTQ and transitioning students. And so we are working on it, but as a teacher, I realize that we really have to take a really hard look at what we are doing in schools, because what are we doing to continue systemic racist, and how can what changes do we need to make our schools anti-racist, and to make our teachers anti-racist, and our curriculum anti-racist and inclusive of everybody. So yeah, the conversation cannot just center around the oppression of Black men, although I definitely think that's in the forefront. It has to be inclusive of everybody.
You know, you mentioned schools, and one of the things we look about history, man, I heard of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I heard that Blacks were slaves, and that's where it pretty much stopped at. So as a teacher, do you think that they should put more into African American history so they can learn more about, well, we were more than just slaves? It was more than just Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Absolutely, Omar. In fact, I will speak about being an English teacher, and one of the things that we try to look at is the literature, is the poetry, is the writing that we're bringing into class. Does it just give the lens of just of racism and slavery for African Americans and for Black people, or does it show Black people as a whole, as humans, exactly what literature is supposed to do? The other thing is that I try really hard to try to bring in authors and literature and themes that my students can see themselves. That's so important, and definitely not something that I had the privilege of having when I was in school. And so I know the difference that it can make when students are able to see themselves. These things, they seem simple, but in reality, it's everybody in education has to change their mindset about it. And we have to understand that when we're more inclusive in education, it's a benefit for everybody.
Right. I had a conversation with a family member Father's Day. We were over at Father's house, and I seen this on the post. I guess Ed, okay, you got Ed and Big Key. I definitely want to start this question off with you. You two probably heard this as well. We as African Americans, Black people, whatever terms you want to use, when in particular, when a white police officer murders or does harm to an African American Black person, we march, we protest, we cry, we shout, we do all these things. But if another brother kills another brother, we're silent. In other words, what they're saying is, when is Black Lives Matter going to matter to us as African Americans? Because we're killing one another, hypothetically speaking, and we're not marching and protesting in the hood when one of our brothers does harm to another brother. But when a white police officer does it, or a white person does it, then we want to march and protest. So Ed, I'm gonna start off with you, and then Big Key.
Well, you know what? I'm kind of glad.
Ed first, then you, Key.
I'm kind of glad you pointed that out, because I think that in all of this, one of the things that we have to emphasize is we have to emphasize the economics behind all this. I mean, racism is real, but racism is a tool that was used really for economic purposes, because we were brought over here as commodities. We were brought over here as commodities to strengthen another social class's pockets. So if we were to emphasize, and I'm not saying that we haven't, I'm just speaking from, what I've seen. If we were to emphasize that, more and more people, Black, brown, red, white, would understand that we're in the same boat. We're in the same boat. We could come together, we become stronger, because the motivation behind all of it is.
You're on mute, Ed. You're on mute.
There you go.
Can
you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Okay. it's worked for 400 years, because I mean, the situations we see now, we're conditioned to see. We're conditioned to seeing Black people in our neighborhoods and our communities shoot and kill each other and stuff like that. But we do understand that that's just not exclusive to our neighborhood, our community. Why we don't get upset about it? I think we do get upset about it. I think we do get upset about it. You say something, Vanity?
No, I actually just got back on. I had accidentally unplugged my Wi-Fi. So I was like, ah. Anyway, just ignore me. I'm going to go back on mute.
Yeah, I don't think we ignore it. I think we talk about it. I know we talk about it a lot in our communities and our surroundings, but it's not covered on the media. Us talking about it, they'll cover the actual murder, but they won't cover that we talk about it. So that's another thing used to discredit Black Lives Matter, as far as I'm concerned. Because I've heard people come to me and literally say, Black lives won't matter until Black lives matter to Black people. That's ridiculous. I mean, I could go on and on about that forever. Bottom line is we do discuss it. It does enrage us, but we understand that it's an economic oppression that created this whole environment where that's going to happen. It's like you put 20 dogs in a fence, lock them in, and you throw one piece of meat, you're going to have dog on dog crime, period. And those are the conditions we've been living under forever.
All right, Big Key.
Okay, first I just want to go back to what the sister said earlier. She said white supremacy. I want to debunk that and not really go against her, but I listened to Brother Richard Raw and it really changed my whole aspect on white supremacy. It's not white supremacy. Nobody is superior to us. It's white terrorism. They have terrorized us for over 400, 500 years, and Caucasians have been terrorizing the whole world. If you look anywhere they step foot at, they always created turmoil. You know, so when you say us killing us, you know, we have adapted their culture. This is not our culture. This is not our language. This is not how we get down. So I don't know if y'all can hear me.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. This is not our culture. So we're in a strange land, right? And someone has set the atmosphere and the condition for us. So now we're living under Willie Lynch. We're living under Donald Trump. We're living under stuff that we don't control, so it's out of our hands. So the first thing they would say is we're killing ourselves. But see, who put the guns in the neighborhood? Who created mass incarceration? Who created the welfare of the mom and the pop can't stay in the same house? You see what I'm saying? So it's been set for us for failure. But the thing what I like about George Floyd is, and I keep telling brothers, is I thank God for the seed of George Floyd, because now we have something to unify around. Okay, you said we killing each other, we doing this, and that. Okay, now brothers, let's unify. Let's get together on one chord because we have one common enemy. It is not you and I. It is the oppressor. It's the systematic racism system that's been oppressing us for a while. So it's not me and you going against each other. It's what's been set for us. If you put a steak in a lion's den and it's only one steak, somebody has to eat. And so you see one drug dealer make it, and then you see people plotting to get him. They're trying to take him out because it's been set up for only one drug dealer to make it. You understand what I'm saying? So when you put that type of when you set certain individuals in a certain environment, they have to act accordingly. Like the young brothers in the gang, so they said. It was their language of speaking with guns, and if they didn't have a gun, they was not heard. That means if they went outside without a tool, that means that they will be killed because the atmosphere was set for them to have a gun. You see what I'm saying? So they say, oh, these young brothers doing that. Set the atmosphere for that. Like, you know, I hate to say it, even with the truth in sentencing with Joe Biden, he set up an atmosphere for mass incarceration. And then they say, well, we're committing these crimes, but we're being over sentenced for these crimes. 3 years for 5 grams of coke, a 10 million high. A junkie will smoke that in a minute, but a white businessman to get caught with a kilo, You heard the rap song, and out on bail he goes. So it's the atmosphere that they have set for us to operate like we do in that type of system that they operate. It's not our culture. It's not natural for us. We don't even know why we rock big gold chains, because in Africa, that's what we did. They stole our resources. They put us here. I mean, I can go on and on and on, man.
Right. One of the things that this Black Lives Matter movement have brought since Mr. George Floyd's death is the removal of statues. And here in Wilmington, Delaware, we had 2 statues that were removed. And Vanity, I saw you at the protest in the the statue removal. I'm not gonna say protest, the statue removal in Rodney Square. So if you want to talk about your experience of going to that event, and I saw where you had a little verbal exchange with someone who didn't agree with the statue to be removed. So you want to talk about that? The statues being removed?
Sure. So the statues got removed on June 12th, and I started a petition to take off, to remove the Christopher Columbus statue on Pennsylvania Avenue. And the same day that I announced the petition, a Facebook page was started. And it was like the Christopher Columbus statue takedown, right? In less than 2 days of me contacting the Italian American community, talking to ex-cops that I know that were helping me navigate through the system, I'm having uncomfortable conversations. In less than 2 days of that being actually, like, that petition being put out, the city of Wilmington removed the statue like in 2 days. Like, it was crazy. And it was no warning. Like, they didn't tell us like when they were going to do it or how it was going to be done. So everyone's contacting me, and I'm like, I didn't know it was going to happen that fast. So the same day that the Christopher Columbus statue got taken down, less than 3 hours later, the Caesar Rodney statue was getting taken down. Mind you, I was not aware that it was going to happen on the same day. I was advocating against Christopher Columbus statue, and I'm like, okay, 2 statues 1 day. Come on, community. So mind you, the statues were removed because it was property. It wasn't removed because people gave a fuck. It's really about people, that care about the property, this, that, and the third. But it has opened up a lot of discussions and a lot of dialogue that was very well needed. Getting questions about like Christopher Columbus and like, why should the statue be put down? And it's like I had to take out like my emotional responses and really know that some people just aren't educated when it comes to history and when it comes to having symbols of oppression in your neighborhood. Symbols rule the world. So if you have art that represents your community and represents positivity, like, you're going to react in that way. But if you have symbols of oppression that are constantly around and remind you of trauma and of just a terrible life, then how are you supposed to heal? So it's like very psychological as well. So getting the statues removed is just like a piece to the puzzle, man. It's so much work to be done in the community, but removing statues that symbolize things that aren't healthy, that's like the goal, exchanging with the guy at Caesar Rodney. He came let me tell you something. I was ready for my people. He came to that protest and he came with his little buddies. His little buddies had guns on their hip, trying to intimidate and everything.
I didn't see that part.
Yes, you didn't see that part. They didn't record that. His little buddies saying like, little racial slurs and this, that, and the third. Oh Lord, the door. I'm about to get up, guys.
Okay.
So it was just more so like I wasn't about to have it. And mind you, everybody there was like really peaceful. Everything was going really well.
Right.
And until he actually came and he was like, this is our history. This is our history. And all I kept saying was like, no, this is your history. And I really wanted to listen to what his justification was. Like, why are you here? He came being very disruptive, very disrespectful, but I was just really vocal because, like I said, when it comes to representing myself with my brothers and sisters of deeper skin tones, I don't mind talking to the cops first. I don't mind like being in the front, you know what I mean? Because I don't want it to get through. I don't want nobody else to interact with them. So it was more so like I was willing to do whatever it takes to get him out. He was being a bully. He was being disruptive. It was terrible.
All right. Noel, one of the things about the marches as I see, is very diverse. They're very diverse. I mean, I see the one in Bonnie Square, CNN, and the other national networks. I see the marches, and you see African Americans, you see whites, you see Asians, you see Hispanics. Talk about the significance of not only African Americans protesting for justice in regards to us being brutalized and nature there, but other cultures joining in. And if anyone else want to chime in, they can. But I'll start off with Noel. You're on mute. There you go. All right.
I mean, I think that white people have always had a responsibility, and it's tragically late, but I'm glad to see that people are coming forward and having revelations and seeing things differently. I have it even with my own family. You know, I'm an agitator at gatherings and allow my child to I don't allow access to my child to people that spew hate or or people that don't understand the work that I'm trying to do. But I'm still not effective doing these things, and I try to be more effective. I try to I've implored with my own family to have these conversations more. Know how I'm so thankful for the folks that have come forward, because they've made more inroads in my own family than I can, and so I have failed people, and I apologize for that I'm not as effective as I try to be. And it's made my own mother told me recently that in her little condo, she sat outside with 80-year-old couples, men and women, who probably don't have many Black people in their lives at all. She sat and is having deep conversations about what they need to be doing differently as 80-year-old white people. And I couldn't make those conversations happen. And these protests have. So I want to thank everyone that is taking action and putting their lives on the line and risk and danger, because I'm still learning how to be effective among white people that I engage with my own loved ones.
Anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, Omar, I definitely will. You know, there's this one resource that I was able to find a couple weeks ago, and it's letters about why Black Lives Matters, and it's in all different languages, and it's even in American Sign Language. And what's really cool about it is that, like, for example, the letter that's in Korean, it's written in such a way that's from like a younger person to like their parents or their grandparents or like an aunt and an uncle, and it's written and it has a little bit of a cultural lens from being Asian or from being Korean, explaining, you know, this is very important to me. What Black Lives Matters is very important to me, and I want you to understand why it's important. And so each letter is kind of, although the message is very similar, it's written in the home language, which I think is so important and empowering. And the thing is that I mean, you know, before the protests, you know, for George Floyd, it was just a mere couple weeks before where I was afraid to leave my house when the president and other people were calling the coronavirus a Chinese virus and the Kung flu. And I mean, it made me genuinely afraid to leave, because I was not sure what people's reaction to me would be, if what would happen. I mean, we had heard about the stories of different Asians where they where people were violent against them because of it, at the very least discriminatory. And I think about that. I think about the fact that many Black friends and family came to my defense when I tried to explain to people why that was so offensive, and to have people say to me, "Oh, it's not racist, it's not offensive." You know, I'm sorry, but I mean, I think I get to decide if it's offensive or racist. Right. And so I think about the fact that there are times where I was afraid to leave the house. What if I felt like that every day? Or what if I was afraid, for my nephews, who are Black, when they leave the house.
Mhm.
And I have fear for them. And we're all in this together. And really, it's at this point, we need to be focused on Black lives. We have to get that message across, and it's very important that every single person be in it.
Right. Big Keep, when we have demonstrations and rallies, you say Black Lives Matter. On the opposite end, someone may say all lives matter. How do you respond when you say Black Lives Matter and then someone on the opposite end says, no, all lives matter?
I think it's and it's not really, but I think it's almost racism, spelled out right there, because when you say Black Lives Matter, it's not like you're saying, at first, oh, they thought I was a terrorist, they thought I was racist, they thought all kinds of things, because I was saying Black Lives Matter. They didn't know how to take it. It's like when AIDS first came, people were scared to touch Magic Johnson because they thought they was going to get the AIDS. Right. And when I hear all lives matter, it's like it's almost like when you talk about Lou Gehrig's disease, what is that, leukemia? I forget what it is, but let's put it like this: when we talk about breast cancer, you have all kinds of cancer, but you dress in pink when you're talking about breast cancer because you're specifically talking about breast cancer. It's not like that all cancers don't matter. It's just that right now we're talking about breast cancer. You know what I mean? And so when my grandmom always said, this squeakiest wheel gets the oil. And so when you look at Black people, you can look at Indians, Jews, Hispanic. You can look at every nationality, right? Mm-hmm. But it seems like anywhere you go in the world, the Black man is always put at the bottom. You can go to London, England, it doesn't matter. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we're saying, listen, man, we I don't even want to say equal, but everybody's the same. You know what I mean? So when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not saying that all lives don't matter, white lives don't matter. We're anti-white, you know what I'm saying? And we're just pro-Black. So, when I hear all lives matter, it's like, to me, like, man, why are you saying that? To me, like, you know what I mean? For real, like, and I can say, white privilege, it's a certain privilege that white people have had for years. And now, I don't want to switch the speed too much, but now I want my brothers and sisters not to overindulge in Black privilege. You hear what I'm saying? And what I mean by that, I don't want the cops to get behind the car and you jump out. What you arrested me for? What you doing this for? And you like, hold on, brother. I'm just, this right here is happening. You know what I mean? Or something's, they start escalating and getting, out of hand. So I want us to, while we got this on the table, not pump the brakes, keep the foot on the gas, but we must do it strategically.
Okay. And one of the things that came out of this movement also is I'm hearing more people say support Black businesses. And you're a business owner. You have your own barbershop / tea shop / coffee shop. If you want to talk about the significance, Ed, of why it's important that African Americans support African American businesses.
Well, I'll speak for our business. I know that the first thing that we do with any revenue that we generate is we try to invest back into programs and activities and things like that go directly to benefit our community. It's so important because if we want to grow, part of that growth is going to be building ourselves up economically. So instead of us, pushing our money straight out, because there was a statistic, and I can't remember what those numbers were, about how quick the Black dollar leaves the community. We have to change that. And I think these protests and this movement and the things that are going on are even making people more aware of that too, because I personally had an uptick in my business because of that, because of people beginning to recognize that, You know, so it's very important that, if at all possible, we spend our first dollars right back in our community. You know, eventually, yes, some of it's going to go out, but we need to make sure that we invest in our places first. And that's just a part of us growing and becoming more economically powerful.
Right, right.
And you know what, man, not to cut nobody off like that, but it's our movement should be centered around economics and politics.
Yes.
If you look at Brother Huey P. Newton and Fred Hampton and all them people, man, they was telling you to get involved in that because that's where the power structure lies. It lies in economics and the political structure. We have to get some of these, I was going to say jokers, I don't want to call them jokers because it's disrespectful, but we have to get some of these politicians out the way. You know what I mean? And like you said, the dollar in the black community only stays in there like, I'm just going to make up a number, 60 seconds. But it might stay in the Caucasian neighborhood for 6 days or, 8 days. I'm just comparing those numbers to how quickly our numbers leave out of our hands. You know what I mean? And those numbers are almost accurate, even though that's not the, the numbers that you get based it on. What I'm saying is if the dollar leaves our hands so fast, it doesn't circulate. And when we look at those corner stores, they're taking our money and they're leaving our community. When you look at the Oriental brothers and you look at the Arab brothers, now I'm not saying that you can't come in my neighborhood, my village, and set up shop, because shops should be open for everybody. But what I'm saying is if you're going to be in my community, put some money back in my community. Public Enemy said, I like Nike, but wait a minute, the neighborhood put some money in it, because every business in the city of Wilmington has to give back a certain percentage to do business in the city of Wilmington. Bought Disney's here. I seen people making Viagra's here, and they give back a part. They're building up on 10th, 11th Street, wherever it's like 300 businesses in there. Delaware is tax-free. So the money, when you hear people say defunding the police, it's not that they want to take all the money from the police, we don't need police. No, we need to redirect and redistribute that money and give it to the people and let them empower them economically. We don't own no businesses. We don't own no homes. We don't even own ourselves. Come on, man. We know our social security number. They selected China and other companies saying, listen, we got Sanyo, Sony's, Toyotas, and Hondas. We're going to sell a certain amount of people. We're gonna buy that. We know the black people credit so messed up that once a Caucasian buys a car for a certain amount of time, we're going to send it down there with the interest rate of 28%. He's going to buy it. You know what I mean? So that we already set up in their financial system. So if that's the case, what about reparations? You know what I'm saying? And I ain't saying a handout. I'm talking about a handout, because America was built off of us. You see what I'm saying? So where's the big payback at? You know what I'm saying? And then when we try to get a business, me and my wife just had a daycare. You should have seen how they was coming at us. This is not right, this not right. And they shut us down. And I'm like, yo, we're feeding our community. We're teaching little black and brown children and white children, Puerto Ricans that was coming to our daycare. We're giving them the fundamentals of life. And then you coming at me and my wife, and I'm like, my wife loved kids. She started the daycare out of her love for the community, doing all things girly. They said you had to have a daycare license. She went and got it and opened up a daycare. Man, them kids, breakfast in the morning, man, I'm just saying, we need economic power, man. We need to foot off our neck in businesses, man, in economics, because it's not only on our neck physically, they in our pockets, man. You understand what I'm saying? And that structure, man, has to be rearranged. And these politicians got to quit selling us out, man, because they're the ones that push legislation. But we got to put our knee on their neck, so to speak, and make them jokers cry out, we can't breathe, because we have came so hard on them that they like, ho, they got to take 3 steps backwards. We got to put pressure on them. But see, our thing is, what is our motive and what is our agenda of pushing that? It's out of love for our people. See, it's a difference if you lock somebody up because, you're trying to save them from themselves, they're hitting their head, they're doing all kinds of things. You see them robbing all types of brother. Look, if Captain Fahim lock you up, you're like, man, okay, I'm locked up. I must have did something wrong. So these are the type of things, man. I can keep going on, man, but I want to cut it right here, man, so people can, get their own spill in, man.
Right. Vanjie, I want to go back to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Vanjie.
Wait, I want to add something.
Oh, sure.
So I'm the co-creator of Black Girl Magic Delaware, and I'm actually creating a directory of Black women businesses and community resources. So if anybody's listening, the link and everything is on the Black Girl Magic Delaware Facebook page, but the directory is going to be put out in August. So I'm still collecting applications right now.
Okay, I got to bring you on a separate show for that, so we can talk about
Yeah,
that.
I would just say since it's tied into like, supporting our economics and everything. I'm like, listen, we build a directory too. Okay.
That's I want to stay with you, Banshee, because when they was removing the statues,
Hmm.
one of the things that came to my mind was, well, there's a Caesar Rodney High School, there's institutions, colleges,
Yes.
schools that's named after people who basically slave owners. So do we change the names of the institutions? We got street, we got Jefferson Street, we got Rodney Street,
Yeah.
we got Washington Street, we got Lincoln Street. Do we change that as well, or is that a bit too much? I don't know.
You know what it comes down to? It takes one step to make one step. I can only be 39 years old in 39 years. Like we have to do one step at a time. I think that things take time. Conversations, human relationships takes time. I think that was the starting effect. It's like a ripple effect. Now conversations like, oh, Caesar Rodney, school district, Caesar Rodney this. I'm like, this is great. But like things take time, and I hope this invigorates people to get involved locally in politics. I hope this really gets people involved into attending civic association meetings and going to their city council, meetings and finding out who their city council person is, so I can find out how to advocate and do a petition. So I really hope this puts fire in everybody's ass to really make a difference. And if that bothers you, that the school district's named that, if that bothers you, that a street is named that, you advocate the hell out of it and you get it done. I feel like it's so many ways just to have everything work, so it's just like one step at a time, so I think that having these conversations is where it starts.
Right. I'm gonna throw this question up in the air for anyone who wants to grab it. This upcoming weekend is 4th of July weekend. It's a holiday. We just had Juneteenth a couple weeks ago. Wow, Juneteenth in the city of New York City, it's been declared a holiday in the city of New York. Do any of you think that Juneteenth should be a national federal holiday? Yes, no, maybe? I don't know.
Yes, I think it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real. I mean, it took place. It happened. It was an independence. So if we're going to celebrate independence, that's just as important as any other independence that we have celebrated. So yes, I think it should be a holiday.
Okay.
And I think Brother Sam and Bash and Trippy, I think they are pushing that legislation on the city council table. For Juneteenth to be a national holiday.
Mahkeib.
That'll go right through real quick and fast. Sam Guy and Bash and Trippy are pushing that, I believe, for Juneteenth to be a national holiday in Delaware or in the city of Wilmington anyway. And I think it'll go by real fast. I don't think nobody will oppose that.
I think that Juneteenth should be a holiday, and I'm glad people are doing it. But my concern is that it's a really easy way for white-led organizations and corporations and businesses, all those groups we've been talking about that control, to easily, do something that doesn't provide them any discomfort. And we need to be doing things that make these groups uncomfortable and relinquish power and really actively change policies and redistribute resources, invest in Black and Brown communities in a way that they absolutely deserve and have since the beginning of time. So my concern is that people are going to do that and put up their Black Lives Matter statements and send out their e-newsletters and put it on their website pages and that be it. And it just can't end there. That is not even the very beginning. I mean, it's
right.
all potatoes.
Yes, Kimberly, you're in the schools. Have you had conversations with the young students, 11th, 12th graders? I'm not sure what grades you teach, but this movement is worldwide, and a lot of the students are really involved. Have you had conversations with your students about the movement of the day, or yes or no?
Yes, definitely we have. I mean, when a lot of things occurred, I mean, obviously the pandemic, teaching everything online, it was a very strange time. But that's completely a different a different topic for a different day. But as well, if you are not following a couple of Instagram sites, there's a couple of Instagram sites that have been started for students specifically to talk about their experiences as of discrimination, whether it be discrimination based on race or discrimination based on being LGBTQ, or discrimination based on their gender. And there's several different, you may have seen it there's in the news source about these Instagram sites. They literally were started maybe a week ago, if that even, and they have thousands of followers. And
Oh,
again, it's one of those things where this next generation, my students, they're luckily they're more enlightened than us. They have a lot to learn, of course, but I have a lot of hope in them. I have a lot of hope in people like my daughter. I have a lot of hope in my students. They're well spoken. They know that that what's been happening is not the way that things can continue. Not for their future, not for ours. And I have a lot of hope in that.
All right, so my last question before we end, this has been an awesome topic. I thought about it just about an hour ago as I was thinking about the show. What does justice for all look like to you? Anyone wants to take that question?
Ooh.
That must be a tough one.
I don't, you know what? Let me just throw this out there. So there's different personalities in different communities. I don't think that's like a one size fits all. I feel like there needs to be different structures where it's like the community has to take care of like each other. The community has to figure out solutions. I see it very well represented in the Jewish community as an example. I go to Brooklyn, there's a Jewish dentist, a Jewish this, a Jewish therapist, a Jewish grocery store, and it's inspiring to see it, but it's also like, damn, they have a fortress of resources that they own, So with that being said, I really feel like it comes to, you have to govern your own community. But that doesn't answer the question. But justice for all, I mean, that's so hypothetical. Justice for all. What is
Well, when we have these demonstrations, we say we want justice. So, I mean, what does that mean?
For me,
justice? I don't know.
I'm sorry, Vanity. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, for me, justice for all, it means more than justice. It means the opportunity. It means that I have the same possibility. My ceiling is just as high as yours. My children's ceiling is, your ceiling is, Vanity. Everybody has the same potential. That, to me, is justice for all. It's that simple.
Right, justice for all. Okay.
Justice for all. Same everything.
Yeah.
To me.
All right. Before we end, I want to let everybody have their last closing comments. If you're involved for organization, if you got an upcoming event, or if you want to say some words of encouragement. But before we do that, we have someone who was the selected Teacher of the Year, Kimberly Stock. So let's give her a round of applause.
Kimberly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, that's so good. Yes, the educators. Yes.
We'd like to give a shout out to her. So let's start off with Noel, then Vanity, then Edward. Any closing comments, any upcoming programs that you want to enlighten us on?
Well, I just want to take this time to thank you all for inviting me into this conversation. It's humbling, and I will definitely use white terrorism moving forward. So thank you, Mr. Mahkeib, for sharing that feedback with me. The only way I can continue to unlearn the racism that's been ingrained in me through society as a white woman is to seek out opportunities to listen and learn from people of color who are willing to and learn, do my own education. But I've learned a lot because other people have taken their time, which they didn't have to do, to share with me their lived experiences and their feedback. And that's a real gift. So thank you for the gift of being part of this conversation.
Okay,
It was nice meeting you. Oh, sorry. I'm like, hey, like virtual, like it's so interesting. I'm like, hey, down there, hey guys. Okay. You know, I just feel like like I said, it's all about like focusing on focus on your strengths, strengthening your strengths. You know, we can't do everything all at once, you know. So if somebody's watching this, you know, and you want to compare, like somebody's giving out 3,000 dinners, somebody's giving out 300. No, whatever you're doing for your community, it matters. Even if it's passing out something, 3 items, you know, 30 items, like make it personal for you. So don't compare your community journey based on other people, because I've had so many people comment like da 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 da, but I'm like, you know what, guys, who cares? Like, how are you helping your own community? So just really make it personal. But yeah, as far as upcoming events, I am the event coordinator and manager for Armed Black Forces. We're all about teaching folks about concealed weapons and protecting themselves. We have a sold out event on July 16th in Wilmington, but the next one will be in September. So it's a free community event for you to come out, find out why you should get your concealed weapon permit and how you can be involved and engaged. So stay tuned. And if you want to follow me or email me, guys, my email address is info@vanitycreates.com.
Is that event virtual or is it in person?
It's an in-person event, but so we reach capacity because, you know, of Corona, we are taking the right precautions. So we reach capacity very quickly thanks to all the shares and everything. But if you want to reach out his page, I can, you know, share that and we can all become friends on Facebook, guys. But yeah, so his whole movement is called Armed Black Movement, but it's for anyone and everyone that wants to learn how to protect yourself and protect your family.
Okay, Edward.
2 things. One thing I want to say, particularly about the Black Lives Matter movement, is that I am pleased because I think that it is evolving, and it's evolving from a simple movement to an ideology. And I say that because movements, usually there's a head, chop that off and they destroy it. But when you create an ideology, that's something that people adapt into their personal lives. There is no head, and you can't stop that. And when I see the diversity that's now becoming a part of Black Lives Matter, it just pleases me because it seems as if it's evolving into an ideology. The other thing is that there's a group of people that we meet with over at my shop, Prime Styles in Newcastle. We've had 2 meetings. There's people that are want to actively get involved with being a part of the solution to some of the problems that we're dealing with. I can't go into the names because we're operating under a non-disclosure, but we're there. Our next meeting is July the 12th. We open the doors to anyone who wants to come in. That's going to be July the 12th on a Sunday at 2 p.m. And there's some pretty big people there. So if anybody wants to come and see what we're talking about, join in, be a resource, be part of it, we open the doors to that. I just can't go into details because of our non-disclosure.
Where is it being held, Mr. Harrison?
It's at Prime Styles and Cuts. We're in Newcastle, Delaware. We're in Garfield Park at 8 Halcyon Drive. Okay. So we'll be there July the 12th at 2 p.m.
Okay, got you. Put your foot on the gas, don't pump the brakes. Big Key, what you got for us?
Well, this is kind of somber. I heard the sister talk about the LGBTQ community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going through something with them right now, you know, dealing with some past things that I have did, you know what I'm saying? And I don't condone it, but it was wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And hearing the sister on the show talking about the younger ones, you know, without dealing with that, it's hard psychologically on them. And I had to learn over a period of time that a lot of those young adults and children were committing suicide. And as I began to look at that and, analyze that, and God began to speak to me, he said, man, they are all my children too, right? But, coming up as a Black man raised in a house by a revolutionist and learning about buck breaking and how white slave masters had their way with the African man, and he had no way of, defending himself because, he was being castrated, he was being torn apart by horses, babies was getting ripped out of the belly, the slave master was stepping on the heads. So homosexuality was something that I despised because of my upbringing. And as I got older, and I started seeing for myself that, love is very you can't cage love because when somebody loves someone, it's easy to make a fool out of them. Love is very powerful. And so when I look at the LGBT community, and I might be saying it wrong, there's a lot of love in their community, but there's also a lot of racism in their community. Because as I begin to converse with Black LGBT, they begin to tell me that the white community is going against them. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, wow. And I feel as though it's a white male pushing racism on me because of something that happened 4 years ago, when I have already, made my amends with certain individuals in that that whole mindset. But here I am 4 years later, and you're still doing it. So to me, it's like even in the LGBTQ, they're doing racism. So I'm like, you're acting like I used to act 4 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And that's very detrimental to the movement of the Black Lives Matter because the LGBT community is also a part of it. You know what I'm saying? When you say Black Lives Matter, you say everything under the umbrella. And so as I begin to see this and see the sensitivity of them, it moves me in such a way where as though I have to do away with my whole way of thinking. And see, only maturity brings you to this level. So I say a shout out to the LGBTQ community. You know what I'm saying? I got mad love for my brothers and sisters. When you say Black Lives Matter, you're saying all Black lives. You're not just saying, oh, only the revolutionists, not the LGBT. No, you're talking about everybody. So I just want to let people know that I'm sincere about it. And they can't nobody make me move on no type of way, because if you do, as a fact, I'm a fighter. So I'm gonna rumble you from the gate. So you can't come to me forcefully. You're gonna have to come to me talking, because that's how I come to people. And you know me for almost my whole life. I've never imposed my will on other people. I've always been the bully book my whole life. That's why I started Black Lives Matter in the city of Wilmington, because I was tired of the bullying that was going on with my people. And so I just want to say that, man. I want to lead them with that in Jesus' name.
Okay. All right. Teacher of the Year, Kimberly Stock. What you got? Anything coming up? Any words of encouragement?
Thank you, Omar, and thank you for that, Mahkeib. I really appreciate that, and you're exactly right that our Black who are also LGBTQ, they have a lot of different prejudice and discrimination that they must overcome. And I would just invite all of you, please, to as our school district and as our schools are working on these issues, as we are really as we're having really some uncomfortable conversations, but really necessary conversations about how to make our schools anti-racist. And it starts with all of us, because every single one of us has implicit bias. And we can all say, oh gosh, I try to treat everybody equally. And that might be what you try to do as a teacher, but the data shows otherwise. If more of our Black and Brown students are suspended, why is that? Is there some implicit bias and discriminatory practices that are occurring? I think that the hard answer is probably yes. And so we would have to get to the bottom of that. We have to take a look at our curriculum. We have to look at the physical structures of the school. And as Vanity said, the symbols of our community, they matter. The things that happen in our schools, they matter. And I think that as a teacher, we have an opportunity now to be on the right side of history. And I just want to encourage all of the teachers out there to please, join with us. And I would invite any of you, please, send me an email. Have another
Sign me up.
with me.
Sign me up.
Yeah,
Sign me up.
absolutely. Please, we would honestly, I really want to talk to you about, about working with our schools. So that would be awesome. And with our school
Oh,
district.
that'd be beautiful, beautiful.
All right, Kimberly Stock, McKee Booker, Edward Harrison, Vanity Constance, Noel Duckworth. Thank you all for being on. And, I'm quite sure I'll be reaching out to you guys again for
I got one question.
separate shows. Oh, you got something else to add before we close out?
Yeah, just one question. I was wondering if anyone would mind if you shared our contact information with each other, because I heard some interesting stuff from some people in this that I would like to reach out to in the future.
Yeah, definitely will. I tagged everybody in this Facebook Live edition, so they'll have your name. And if you want to leave the number or email, you can do that right now, or if you want to wait. So, or you can even share.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, I can wait for you.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Let's do this again. I'll probably reach out to you guys for different topics, but it was an honor and pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Omar.
All right.
Thank you. Nice meeting you guys. Bye.
Nice meeting everybody.
Yeah. Peace.